A special edition of Builders Live here live at Global Entrepreneurship Congress. We'll get to that in a second. But first, we're going to check in about a new launch from an important and influential ecosystem building group. I am joined by my friends Andy and Fay. First, can we start? I've known you two more recently leading an organization of a certain name that I will not say because there's a new name. So can we share first about what we launched today here at the Global Entrepreneurship Congress, and then we'll get to why.
Yeah, so super excited to be here at the Global Entrepreneurship Congress in Indianapolis, Indiana. Last one was in Australia. One before that was in Saudi Arabia. We've come here to Indy to announce at GEC on the big stage and also on this technically podcast for the first time publicly out loud. The Ecosystem Building Leadership Network, which we'll get into in a second, is officially rebranded on June 1st as the ESHIP Alliance, really working to continue 9 years of work.
ESHIP. You've helped for a generation of people who are not unfamiliar with French origin words.
That's right.
You cut the ESHIP.
But yeah, we just can't. I still mess it up, and I type it 100 times. We call it the ESHIP Alliance because its roots are at the ESHIP Summit held by the Kauffman Foundation, where I used to work. 4 of them. The goal when it started in 2017 was to put entrepreneurship ecosystem building at the center of the economic and community development conversations. Not to say that entrepreneurship wasn't in there, but the questions I got then was, is entrepreneurship economic development? And if you are to be successful at building entrepreneurial ecosystems, you need human beings, ecosystem builders or ecosystem building practitioners who do that work. And then I think even more importantly in all of that, we need entrepreneurship, we need ecosystems, but how do we do that in a way that centers equity, that makes sure anyone, anywhere who wants to be an entrepreneur has the opportunity to participate? And so building these equitable entrepreneurial ecosystems really has caught fire, I think, in the economic development circles. But that's because 9 years of work by thousands of people who've been working with us, and it's all now part of this alliance of organizations called the ESHIP Alliance, looking at how do we strengthen the profession of ecosystem building across the United States.
And it feels like a bit of a moment, Fay. We like Global Entrepreneurship Congress, as you alluded to, also in some sense comes out of some Kauffman Foundation work and has its first kind of summit in 2009 in the United States in Kansas City. Then it gone about the world. Incredible work has grown considerably back in the United States along that path. Other work has been laying this foundation of entrepreneurship isn't just kid nonsense, which is kind of what my 16-year journey was always feeling like we were kids and always felt patronizing. Fay, what's your role in this and why is it important for your work?
So, wow. That's a big question.
How long have we worked together, Fay? For like
7, 8 years.
7, 8 years.
I think. I started off as our organization, Forward Cities, for which I serve as Chief Program Officer. We are a grantee of the Kauffman Foundation, and we were blessed enough to be able to partner on some work with them in the ESHIP brand at the time in a program called ESHIP Communities. And so we were taking the strategies that came out of the ESHIP summits and testing them in real time in communities around what that looks like to embed ecosystem building within a local economy. And for me, this is serendipitous. This is my first GEC. And so having it come at this particular time, which I think is a key inflection point for our field, which is over the past 7 or 8 years, it has emerged from a very little known practice, or at least less organized practice, into something that's now been embedded in economic development at a large extent at the federal level. And when I think of this idea of ESHIP, what it means for me and why it's important is that, yes, E stands for entrepreneurship, but I think now it also brings to mind economic development and community development, but also equity. And in a time when that is threatened in some ways in this country, I think being able to have a collective that is working on all of these issues collectively and together, that's why I like the ship part, is we're all in the same boat. We're all going along and doing this together. I think it couldn't come at a better time, and I'm grateful to have an opportunity to be a part of it. I will be serving as the ESHIP Alliance's first field builder in residence.
As of Monday. But the key here is that Fay has been with this work and this project for many years. And when we started, we basically have spun the work out of the Kauffman Foundation of the ESHIP Alliance. We had to form a leadership council. Fay, you were on that council. It was 20 or 15 folks democratically elected from the field, representing a wide swath of people. And Fay stepped up as the first chair of that leadership council. So at that leadership council then recruited me to be the first paid staff member, even though I've been working at previously in my Coffin Foundation job. So Fay and I have been sort of at the tip of the spear, representing 2,500 people, input, ideas, thoughts over the last almost 9 years. And so Fay and I have been trying to synthesize and put together all that to say, how do we make sure that this practice of equitable entrepreneurial ecosystem building is part of every conversation in every community, and how then it sounds good as part of the conversation, but how do you do it? What are the processes? What are the steps? How do you measure it? All of those questions. We don't have a lot of great consensus on that right now. And part of what the ESHIP Alliance is about is how can we work together to develop the professional practice to make sure people who are doing it know what to do, and those who are coming into it know how to learn.
So what's day one for you, Fay? What are you doing?
I'm going to take a nap after this.
She's just happy that she's been a super volunteer for a year, and then now is actually now stepping into this role as this field building fellow. That's us. And we're working on building. We're in the process of building a platform for the field to welcome ecosystem builders and the people that support them to connect not just with their group of people, but across sectors, across industries. You know, people in libraries build ecosystems, mayors build ecosystems, grassroots leaders build ecosystems, university people build ecosystems, but people get a little pocketed, a little siloed. So we're working on this digital platform called
The ESHIP Commons. I was just speaking to someone about this the other day. It's more than a community platform, because like no one just needs another online platform. What really I think is ideal about it is if there was like an answer room somewhere where we can go and get the answers and to all our challenges and solutions around supporting entrepreneurs and community. Wouldn't that be fantastic? The challenge is no one entity or no one person or no one organization can build that room. And the ESHIP Commons is actually a collectively built solution room. It's a collectively built answer room. Together we will convene, we will connect folks who serve entrepreneurs in all capacities, utilizing ecosystem building practices. Will be able to have a space to come together, to network, to learn from one another, to find resources that they need to help them with their work, and most importantly, really dig in and co-create solutions together so that no one can no longer say, hey, I'm up against all of this alone. We are all collectively leaning in to help solve these challenges that then can lead to more entrepreneurs in more communities across America.
He says there's two groups that we really cater to, and that's people build entrepreneurial ecosystems in their communities. But there's also these, we call them national resource providers. People that provide resources to help ecosystem builders. And there have been, the Alliance is really made up, or really the sort of the pillars of that, or the ESHIP Alliance are those organizations. And they've all been guests on your podcast. So, you know, right to start, Victor's team over there, the folks at the Startup Champions Network, SourceLink, MBIA, IEDC, which is the National Body for Economic Developers, the Entrepreneurship Funders Network, which is a network of 23 foundations that care about entrepreneurship. And then we, and Forward City, of course. But also, you and I have been in conversation about what role can technically play in the storytelling aspect of this. And you've already got the work around your community practice there. You've obviously been doing this for longer than almost anyone. And so really looking forward to connecting with the organizations that support ecosystem builders and creating that online platform for those folks who have the tools and the resources, the people need them to come together and figure out how to do the work in their local communities. Each community is different, so there's no one size fits all recipe, but there's a lot more resources than there were 10 years ago.
Well, and I'm going to lose you guys in a minute or two, but let's maybe close with that idea of like, why now? I think I'm really interested in, I think it would be sensible for someone from afar to say, like, I don't quite know what you mean by entrepreneurship, but isn't that how all businesses start? So isn't that all business strategy or all local economic development? Like, why is there a whole thing happening here with setting a new foundation? Why wasn't entrepreneurship at the center in your estimation in the past? What happened here? Why does it need this resurgence, this resetting?
I have a part, I think, there's in particular around equity. And yes, all businesses were birthed at some point by someone. And, you know, we understand the data shows that the majority of jobs in America are started by new businesses, right? And so if we just stop creating new businesses, our economy would die. And so the idea is, how do we keep that pipeline fresh? New ideas, new businesses, new opportunities, innovation. That pipeline has to continue. And the challenge is, if that slows down, and things like the pandemic, things like what's happening now around sort of tariffs, things that make businesses close down and shut down, means that less and fewer businesses are getting started. So we want to make sure that trend doesn't continue to go in reverse. So the more folks that are supporting businesses that in particular now are important. From an equity lens, the businesses that tend to fail the most are those that are started by underestimated funders. And that tends to be people of color, tends to be women, tends to be people who from a lower socioeconomic background. And so for us and for Forward Cities, the organization that I serve, it's really important that now more than ever, particularly when now there's also legislation that could threaten this work, that we're showing up for and equipping organizations to be able to make sure that anyone that wants to start and grow a business has the opportunity to do that, and they're supported by a community that will be there for them to make sure that they thrive.
Let me build on that and then have Andy help us close out this. I'm obsessed with the divide we have between small and perhaps medium and big business lacks this other category of new business. And you hit on that exactly, Fay, that there is another category there. And so much of the research, when people are talking about business growth and they might say small business, they usually really mean new business. It's that kind of dynamism that is actually what we want. And some might end up being small businesses. Some might end up being medium or big businesses. But it's a dynamism that we want. And so maybe to kind of like close us out then, Andy, what then is your hope for where the ESHIP Alliance goes next? Because entrepreneurship can be a big tent, and one risk is when a tent gets so big, it kind of can lose meaning. That is one of the challenges that you'll end up facing, I'm sure, that you have to both let anyone come who wants to come, but at some point, if it's too wide, at some point it loses all meaning. So how do you think about your charge going forward with the ESHIP Alliance?
Yeah, well, I appreciate that question. I think the analogy that's often used to talk about entrepreneurial ecosystems is a natural ecosystem, which is a rainforest. Thriving natural systems like a rainforest don't have one kind of tree. They don't have one kind of plant. The ones that thrive, the ones that are resilient, have a diversity of all the things. This is true in coral reefs too. It's true of economies too. We got to have big companies, got to have little companies, got to have micro business, got to have social enterprise. Got to have micro businesses, got to have all the different types of businesses. And so we at the Coffee Foundation, we always call the makers, the doers, and the dreamers. And I think the one thing is people get so obsessed about the different types of business and who they're supposed to support. But when Mr. Kaufman, who started the Ewing Marion Coffee Foundation, started a business in his basement with $5,000 that he borrowed, that it was just a one-man show, he did not say, I am a high-growth business, and in 30 years, I'm going to sell this thing for $6 billion. No, he's just trying to eat, take care of his family. And so I think it is important. You never know what one type of tree is going to grow into another type of tree. But we're in this moment in history that is very unique, which is we are entering an era where entrepreneurship has been democratized. This is primarily because of the exponential increase in technology and connectivity, that even like the technologies that we have now allow anyone anywhere who has an idea to start. Now, it's still hard to grow a business. But anyone, anywhere, and the places that will thrive in the 21st century are those who create the conditions that have the community to help people make those ideas happen. It is very different than the 20th century that you and we all came up in, because anyone, anywhere can be an entrepreneur because the world has changed. And the last thing I would say is, and I said this on the stage at GEC, if you zoom way out, there's been 4 eras in human history: hunter-gatherers, agrarian, we moved into cities in the late 1800s, and we are literally entering the 4th era. I'm not making this up. There's lots of different names for it. 4th Industrial Revolution, I call it the connected age. There's a lot of names. The world and the global forces have shifted the way the world works. And the people who will succeed are the people who are entrepreneurial, who can make ideas happen, who can take global resources and put them together to make a thing and get it out to the world, whether that's a tech startup or a movie or a widget or a pie. But we've got to make sure our communities are equipped with that support structure so those entrepreneurs can find that resources wherever they were, and they do it in that place. That place is going to grow. That place is going to thrive. And if everyone can participate in that in the economy, those communities are going to thrive even more.
That's a beautiful way to go. My friends, Andy and Fay. Andy reminding us that we were born in the 1900s. Thanks for that. unnecessary, unrequested reminder.
Yes.
That's a special edition, this bonus edition of Builders Live, happening live at the Global Entrepreneurship Congress. Thank you to GECG and Jen for hosting us, and for our podcast partners. We'll see you next time. Thanks, friends. Bye.
Thanks so much.